Ethan had always known that life could be strange, but nothing prepared him for Zira Prime. He stood on the observation deck of the starship Aurora, watching the violet clouds swirl over the planet's surface. His stomach twisted with nerves. In a few hours he would meet his new family, the family his father had created in another galaxy. His father, an energetic man named Daniel, had married a Zira woman named Solara. And that meant Ethan now had a stepsister, Lyra. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. He wasn't sure what to expect. Zira aliens were tall, with pale blue skin, luminous eyes, and hair that shimmered like the surface of a quiet lake at dawn. Humans were fragile in comparison, Ethan knew, but humans had something else: cleverness, courage, and the ability to adapt. The Aurora shook gently as it prepared to dock. Ethan took a deep breath. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "You can do this." The docking bay doors hissed open. A faint mist rolled over the floor, scented faintly of minerals and alien flowers. Solara was waiting at the exit, graceful as ever, her glowing eyes soft but unreadable. Beside her, Lyra stood, arms crossed, her eyes flicking toward Ethan with curiosity and caution. "Ethan," Solara said warmly, her voice melodic but slightly strange to human ears. "Welcome to Zira Prime. I know this is a big change for you." Ethan nodded. "Thanks, Mom. I mean, Solara," he said, feeling awkward. Lyra's lips curved in the tiniest smile, barely noticeable. She tilted her head. "You're the human my father brought?" she asked softly, almost more to herself than to him. Ethan swallowed. "Yes, that's me." He shifted his weight. "Nice to meet you." Lyra didn't respond immediately. Her eyes glowed faintly, a subtle sign of thought or analysis in Zira communication. Ethan remembered reading about this. The glow changed with emotion. Nervousness made it flicker. Curiosity made it steady. Solara clapped her hands lightly. "Come, we should get to the house. It's not far from the docking bay. I want you to settle in before dinner." The family walked through a hallway that shimmered with ambient light. Ethan tried not to stare at everything. The walls that seemed to pulse with energy, the small floating orbs that moved like miniature moons, and the soft hum that made the air feel alive. Every corner reminded him that this world was different, yet somehow beautiful. As they approached the living quarters, Solara paused. "Before you meet the other members of the household, there's something you should know. Zira life has its differences. Lyra is going through her cycle, and it can be uncomfortable for her. She'll need space, but also understanding. Just be patient." Ethan's stomach lurched. "Cycle?" he asked carefully. "Yes," Solara said. "Similar to human cycles, but different. You'll learn how to respect it. For now, just be supportive and avoid making her feel awkward." Lyra's glow dimmed slightly, and she turned away, her gaze fixed on the floor. Ethan realized she might already be embarrassed. They entered a room that would be Ethan's temporary home. It was sleek and minimal, with walls that could change color and a bed that seemed to float a few inches above the floor. Ethan set his bag down, trying to look calm. Just as he was beginning to relax, the ship shuddered violently. The lights flickered. A loud alarm echoed through the corridors. "What's happening?" Ethan shouted. Solara's eyes widened. "I don't know. This isn't normal." Before anyone could react, the floor beneath them shifted and a panel in the corridor opened. A cloud of pressurized gas hissed out. In moments, Ethan and Lyra were sucked toward the panel. They stumbled, trying to grab handrails, but the doors behind them slammed shut. "Ethan!" "Lyra, get back!" Solara called, but the doors were locked automatically by the emergency system. Ethan's heart raced. "Lyra, are you okay?" Lyra grabbed his arm. "I'm fine, but we're trapped." Her glow pulsed nervously, faster than before. "The door won't open, and the system isn't responding." Ethan looked around the small chamber they had stumbled into. It wasn't big, barely enough for two people, but it had enough tools and panels that might help them survive for a while. "Okay," Ethan said, trying to sound braver than he felt. "We need to stay calm. We can figure this out together." Lyra's eyes flicked to his. "Together?" she asked softly. "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "We can't panic. We'll find a way out." She nodded, though her glow flickered with discomfort. Ethan noticed her movements were slower, more deliberate, as if every motion required extra energy. Minutes passed. The emergency lights bathed the chamber in red, casting long shadows across the walls. Ethan tried to focus. "Do you know how the panel works?" he asked, pointing to the small control pad beside the chamber door. Lyra frowned. Yes, but it's not simple for humans. Zyra technology is delicate. One wrong move and it could make the problem worse, Ethan swallowed. Then teach me. I can follow instructions carefully. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. All right. First, you need to override the primary lock sequence. That requires matching the energy pulse from the control pad to the chamber's life support. Ethan squinted at the glowing symbols on the panel. They shifted and shimmered in ways he had never seen. Okay, I think I can do that. Step by step? Lyra placed her hand near his, guiding him without touching him. Step 1. Press this sequence, but only after the pulse aligns with the chamber's rhythm. Ethan took a deep breath and watched the panel. He could see the pulse, the soft, steady glow that seemed almost alive. Carefully, he pressed the first button. The panel blinked. Lyra nodded. Good, now the second sequence. As they worked together, the chamber became warmer. Ethan noticed the subtle changes in Lyra's behavior. She moved slower, her glow dimmed, and she occasionally touched her midsection, a sign that he now realized was part of her cycle. I don't know what to do, Ethan admitted quietly. I don't want to make things worse. Lyra looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. Just stay calm. Don't panic. That's all I need. They continued working, their movements synchronized. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Ethan marveled at how intelligent and patient Lyra was, even while clearly uncomfortable. He felt admiration growing within him. She wasn't just an alien. She was strong, resilient, and capable. Finally, the panel blinked green. A soft click echoed through the chamber. The door slid open, revealing the hallway beyond. Ethan exhaled. We did it. Lyra smiled faintly, a small but genuine expression. Yes, we did, together. They stepped out, tired but relieved. The emergency lights faded as the normal system rebooted. Solara rushed to them, relief evident in her glowing eyes. You two are safe, she said. I knew you could handle it. Ethan glanced at Lyra. We worked well together, she nodded. Yes, I think humans are more capable than I expected. Ethan felt a surge of pride. This was just the beginning, he knew. He didn't fully understand Lyra's species, and she didn't fully understand humans, but something had shifted. Trust was forming. Respect was forming. And in that moment, trapped together in a small chamber on a distant alien world, a new bond was born. One that would grow stronger with time, patience, and shared challenges. As they walked toward the living quarters, Ethan realized that life on Zira Prime would be strange, difficult, and sometimes awkward. But it would also be full of discovery, friendship, and the kind of courage only humans could show. And for the first time, he felt ready for it. The next morning, Ethan woke to soft, glowing light filtering through his window. Zira Prime's sun wasn't like Earth's. It shimmered with violet and gold hues, casting gentle, warm rays that made the floating city below look like a garden of lights. Ethan stretched, trying to shake off the exhaustion from the previous day. He remembered the events in the chamber, the panic, the teamwork, the strange glow of Lyra's eyes. He also remembered her words, just stay calm. Don't panic. Somehow those words stuck with him. There was a calm certainty in them that made him realize humans could learn a lot from alien patience, but also that aliens could learn from human adaptability. Ethan stepped out into the main hallway of the house. The walls pulsed faintly, responding to movement and thought. It was strange but beautiful. At the end of the hallway, he saw Lyra sitting cross-legged. Her glow dimmed and flickering lightly. She was holding a small device, turning it over in her hands with careful attention. Good morning, Ethan said softly, not wanting to startle her. Lyra looked up. Good morning, she replied, her voice a little quieter than usual. You slept well? Ethan shrugged. I think so. It's different from Earth, but it's comfortable. He paused, trying to think of a way to bridge the awkwardness. How are you feeling? Lyra hesitated. She wasn't used to humans asking about her cycle. Usually other Zyra treated it as private and somewhat sacred, but Ethan's genuine concern seemed different. I'm managing, she said finally. It's not easy, but it's tolerable, Ethan nodded. I want to help if I can. I don't really understand it, but I can try. Lyra blinked, her eyes glowing faintly with surprise. She had expected judgment, teasing, or awkwardness. Instead, she found patience. Thank you, she said softly. I think, We'll need to spend time together. There's more to learn than you realize. The day passed slowly. Ethan discovered how much care was needed for Lyra's comfort. The ambient temperature of the house had to be adjusted, the airflow carefully controlled, and the lighting softened to reduce stress. Every small thing mattered to her during her cycle. At first it felt strange to Ethan, almost like learning a new language, but as he watched her navigate her discomfort, he began to understand. "Ethan," Lyra said during a quiet moment, "Zira cycles affect more than just the physical state. They change emotions, focus, and sometimes even the way we communicate." Ethan listened carefully. "So, it's like your whole body is telling you something, not just your mind?" Lyra nodded. "Exactly. It's like my energy flows differently. I need space sometimes, but I also need help managing small tasks. That's why being trapped yesterday was enlightening." She smiled faintly. "You stayed calm. You adapted. Most humans would have panicked." Ethan felt a small rush of pride. "I think humans are good at figuring things out, especially when we care about someone." Lyra tilted her head, glowing faintly in acknowledgement. "Perhaps. I see that now. You are different from what I expected." By mid-afternoon, Ethan suggested they explore the house together. He wanted to understand Zira living spaces better, and perhaps make the environment more comfortable for Lyra. They moved slowly through rooms that changed color based on thought and movement. Ethan was fascinated by the subtle energy currents that powered the house. "See this?" Ethan asked, pointing at a panel that responded to their hand movements. "On Earth we have touchscreens, but it reacts to motion, thought, and touch all at once." Lyra nodded. "It is delicate. Most humans would struggle to operate it without careful attention. But you seem to sense it naturally. Perhaps your species has a unique way of observing patterns." Ethan smiled. "Maybe I like figuring things out, especially when it helps someone else." Lyra's glow pulsed softly. Ethan noticed it brightened slightly when she was comfortable, dimmed when she was uneasy. This subtle rhythm became something he watched unconsciously, learning the way she felt without words. As the afternoon passed, they moved to the kitchen. Zira cooking was very different. Ingredients glowed softly, and the cooking surfaces adjusted temperature automatically. Lyra prepared a small meal for herself, her movements careful but fluid. "You should try," she said, offering Ethan a glowing orb of food. "It's safe for humans, though. Taste may be unusual." Ethan hesitated, then bit gently. The flavor was strange, sweet, slightly metallic, and warm. But he smiled. "Not bad. I think I can get used to it." Lyra watched him closely. "You are brave," she said, "and adaptable. That is why I can tolerate my cycle with you nearby. Your presence is reassuring." Ethan realized she was not just teaching him, but also trusting him. That trust was precious, and he felt a sense of responsibility. Humans might be fragile, she might be powerful, but together they could handle challenges. Later they moved to the library room. It was a tall space filled with floating orbs of knowledge, each glowing with information. Ethan hovered a hand near one orb, and it projected a three-dimensional map of Zira Prime. "Fascinating," Ethan whispered. "On Earth maps are flat, but this feels alive," Lyra smiled faintly. "Knowledge here is energy. It responds to understanding, curiosity, and intent. You seem compatible with it." They spent hours exploring information about Zira biology, culture, and technology. Ethan absorbed as much as he could. He realized that respecting Lyra's cycle wasn't just about patience. It was about understanding her species' life rhythm, needs, and environment. By evening, they returned to the living quarters. Ethan noticed Lyra looked tired. Her glow was dim and she moved more slowly. "You should rest," Ethan said gently. "I can manage dinner with your mother." Lyra shook her head. "No, I want to stay awake a little longer. With you, I want to learn about humans, and you, about Zira." Ethan felt warmth in his chest. This mutual exchange, this willingness to teach and learn from one another, was forming a bond he had never expected. "All right," he said. "Let's sit." They sat side by side, sharing stories of Earth and Zira Prime. Ethan spoke of human cities, forests, oceans, and strange inventions. Lyra spoke of floating gardens, energy currents, and the delicate balance of Zira society. Hours passed without noticing. The chamber where they had been trapped yesterday seemed a distant memory, replaced by shared curiosity and growing trust. At one point, Lyra paused, her glow dimming. Ethan, I feel uncomfortable. My cycle, it's difficult right now. But I trust you. Can you stay here? Ethan nodded immediately. Of course. I'll stay. You're not alone, they sat quietly. Ethan's presence was steady, grounding. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the subtle reassurance of someone who didn't judge, didn't panic, and didn't treat her cycle as shameful. For the first time, she felt normal around a human, even during a time she usually found awkward and private. As night fell on Zira Prime, Ethan looked out the window. The planet was alive with glowing forests, floating rivers of light, and the faint shimmer of distant cities. He realized that this world was strange, challenging, and beautiful. Lyra broke the silence. I never imagined a human could be this considerate. I expected awkwardness, discomfort, maybe fear. But you are patient and observant. Ethan smiled. I guess humans can surprise you. And maybe we can learn from each other too. Lyra's glow pulsed slowly, a sign of contentment. Perhaps. Together we are stronger than I expected. Ethan felt a small thrill of pride. It wasn't just about surviving yesterday's trap anymore. It was about understanding, respect, and mutual care. They were learning to navigate differences, adapt to challenges, and trust one another. As they finally rested for the night, Ethan realized something important. Life on Zira Prime would not be simple. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and strange customs to learn. But if humans and Zira could work together, understanding and respecting each other, anything was possible, and for the first time, trapped together in a world so different from his own, Ethan felt ready for the adventure ahead. The next day on Zira Prime began quietly, with violet sunlight streaming through the crystalline walls of the house. Ethan had grown accustomed to the gentle hum of the structure, the way the walls seemed alive and the floating lights that guided movement. He found comfort in the strange rhythm of this world and even more so in the presence of Lyra. Lyra, however, looked less comfortable than usual. Her glow pulsed irregularly, and she moved with subtle hesitation. Ethan remembered her warning from the previous day. Her cycle could make her sensitive, emotional, and physically weak at times. Are you feeling okay? Ethan asked cautiously as they walked toward the training room. Lyra shook her head slightly. Not entirely, but I can manage. I do not wish to stay in my room all day. Ethan nodded. All right. We'll take it slow. Just let me know if you need help. Lyra gave him a faint smile. Thank you, Ethan. You are patient. Not many humans would be. The tranquility of the morning shattered with a sudden loud alarm. The house's energy systems flickered, lights switching rapidly between normal and red emergency mode. The walls vibrated slightly and a soft rumble ran beneath their feet. What is it? Ethan shouted, trying to keep his voice steady. Lyra's eyes glowed bright in alarm. I don't know. The main energy conduit is unstable. We need to check the system room immediately. They ran through the corridors, dodging panels that flickered and shifted. Ethan's mind raced. Zyra systems were far more advanced than anything on Earth. But this was critical. If the energy conduit failed, the house could go into total lockdown, trapping them again or worse. When they reached the system room, Ethan froze for a moment. The walls were alive with shifting lights and energy streams that pulsed dangerously. Sparks flew from exposed panels and a faint hiss of escaping energy filled the air. Lyra placed her hand on one of the consoles. The main conduit is destabilizing. If we do not recalibrate the pulse within 10 minutes, the entire system will fail. Ethan swallowed hard. 10 minutes? Okay, what do I do? Lyra took a deep breath. We have to synchronize the manual override. The energy pulses must match the conduit's natural frequency. You can handle the interface. I will guide you through the calibration. Ethan nodded, trying not to let panic take over. His hands hovered over the glowing controls, and Lyra's voice was steady, calm, and instructive. She explained the sequence, how to read the pulses, when to press the keys, and how to correct misalignments. As Ethan followed her instructions, he noticed her breathing had become uneven. The cycle was making her weaker, more sensitive to the stress and physical effort required. He realized he needed to do more than just follow instructions. He had to adjust for her limitations. Lyra, you should rest your arms, Ethan said softly. I can handle this. Lyra shook her head. No, you must follow the sequence with me. Your energy is steady, precise. We need to act together. Ethan nodded. All right, together. They synchronized their movements, pressing buttons and adjusting pulses. Sparks leapt from the panels, but the chamber didn't fail. Ethan's hands shook slightly as he followed Lyra's guidance, matching the energy frequencies as precisely as he could. Minutes passed like hours. Lyra's glow flickered wildly as discomfort from her cycle intensified. Ethan noticed her wincing when the panels vibrated, or when she had to stretch her hands across the controls. "You're doing well," he said softly. "I can see it's working. We're almost there." Lyra blinked at him, surprised by his calm encouragement. "Ethan, your patience, your focus. It is remarkable. Most Zyra would not notice the subtle fluctuations like you do." Ethan smiled faintly, trying to hide his own fear. "I guess humans are good at noticing details, especially when someone else's safety depends on it." Finally, the main conduit stabilized with a soft hum. The panels returned to their normal glow, and the lights in the room shifted from red back to gentle white. Ethan and Lyra exhaled in unison, both feeling the release of tension. "We did it," Ethan said, leaning against a wall to steady himself. Lyra's glow brightened faintly, a sign of relief. "Yes, together. I did not expect humans to be so capable in moments like this." Ethan smiled. "You underestimate humans sometimes. We adapt, we survive, and we can be good at helping each other." Lyra nodded, but the relief was short-lived. Her discomfort remained, and she shifted uncomfortably. Ethan noticed subtle signs, her breathing uneven, her glow dimming slightly, and realized she needed more than just guidance. She needed support. "Lyra, sit down for a moment," he said gently. "I'll handle the remaining checks. You need a break." Lyra hesitated, but eventually allowed herself to sit. Ethan carefully took over the console, following the procedures she had taught him. His hands moved quickly but cautiously, guided by what he had learned from her and from the previous day's experience. For the next hour, Ethan maintained the energy systems while Lyra rested nearby. He marveled at her resilience. She had worked tirelessly, even while in discomfort. It made him feel both admiration and a sense of responsibility. Humans could be clever, brave, and persistent, but sometimes they needed to protect and support others as well. "Ethan," Lyra said softly after a while, I am impressed. Not just with your skill, but with your patience. I feel safer with you here." Ethan's chest warmed at her words. "You're not alone, Lyra. We're a team. We can handle things together." The emergency finally passed. The house's energy stabilized completely and the alarms ceased. Ethan and Lyra allowed themselves to relax, leaning against the smooth walls and taking deep breaths. "You know," Ethan said after a while, "we make a pretty good team. Trapped together yesterday, working through today, I think we might actually understand each other more than we expected." Lyra's glow pulsed thoughtfully. "Perhaps. Humans have qualities Zyra do not often recognize. Courage, patience, and the ability to learn quickly under pressure. You've proved all of that today." Ethan laughed softly. "And you proved that Zyra are stronger than I imagined, even while dealing with your cycle. I couldn't have done this without you teaching me." Lyra's eyes softened. "Then we both learned something. I am glad we are step-siblings. Perhaps this unusual start was necessary." Ethan nodded. "Maybe. Strange situations teach the most important lessons." As the day ended, they moved to the observation deck together. Zyra Prime's skies were alive with glowing rivers and floating islands, and the soft twilight bathed everything in violet and gold. Ethan felt a sense of peace. Despite the crisis, they had survived, adapted, and grown closer. Lyra looked at him, her glow dim but steady. "Ethan, I feel understood and respected. That is rare." "You're respected," Ethan replied. "Not just by me, but by humans. We see courage and effort, not just results. And you are amazing. Don't forget that." She gave a small smile. "Perhaps humans are not as fragile as we think, and perhaps Zyra are not as intimidating as you imagined. Together we are stronger." Ethan felt a surge of pride and hope. This was the essence of HFY, the human spirit shining through courage, empathy, and adaptability. It wasn't just about physical strength or technology. It was about heart, patience, and the willingness to work together, no matter how alien or strange the situation might seem. As night fully settled over Zyra Prime, Ethan and Lyra returned to their rooms. The events of the day had tested them in unexpected ways. but also solidified a growing bond of trust and respect. Ethan realized that living on this alien planet would be challenging, full of strange customs and sometimes physically uncomfortable. But with Lyra as a partner, mentor, and friend, he felt ready for the days ahead. For Lyra, the experience had shown her that humans were not weak or unworthy. They were clever, brave, and adaptable, capable of learning quickly and acting with care. And she knew that Ethan was not just a human stepbrother. He was someone she could rely on, someone who could understand her even in moments of vulnerability. The quiet hum of the house lulled them to sleep, but both of them knew that tomorrow would bring new lessons, new challenges, and new opportunities to grow together. And deep inside, Ethan felt certain that no matter what happened on Zero Prime, humans and Zyra could achieve great things when they worked side by side. The morning sun of Zyra Prime bathed the floating city in soft violet light. Ethan stretched, feeling the residual fatigue from the previous day's energy crisis, but also a sense of accomplishment. Trapped together, navigating Lyra's cycle and stabilizing the house's systems had been exhausting, but it had also forged a connection he hadn't expected. Ethan stepped out of his room and saw Lyra in the hallway. She was practicing a small ritual of her species, an exercise of balance and energy control. Her glow pulsed softly, more steady than yesterday. Though still uneven, she noticed him watching and smiled faintly. "Good morning," Ethan said, trying to sound cheerful. "Are you feeling better?" Lyra nodded. "Better. And more focused. Yesterday's events taught me patience. And perhaps humans are not as clumsy as I once thought." Ethan chuckled. "I'm glad I could surprise you. I guess we both learned something." Their morning began quietly. Ethan accompanied Lyra as she adjusted her environment, changed her personal energy fields, and moved carefully through her routines. At first he struggled to keep up with her precise motions and delicate timing, but he adapted quickly. "You notice details," Lyra said, her glow flickering with mild amusement. "You observe carefully and you adjust. That is rare for humans. Most are hasty," Ethan shrugged. "I guess when you care about someone you notice things you wouldn't normally see." Lyra's glow brightened slightly. "Indeed, that is admirable." Later, Celera asked them to join her in the dining area. The meal was prepared with floating orbs of food, each containing perfect portions of nutrients for humans and Zyra alike. Ethan marveled at the technology, but also at the care that had gone into balancing the meal. "Ethan," Celera said gently, "Lyra has told me about your efforts yesterday. I am impressed with how you supported her." "Not many humans would act with such patience," Ethan smiled. "I only did what seemed right. I wanted to help her, not just survive, but feel comfortable." Lyra nodded, and for a moment she glowed faintly, a sign of gratitude. "Your presence reassures me. That is rare during my cycle. Most I interact with find it inconvenient or embarrassing, but you act differently." After the meal, Solara suggested a walk through the floating gardens of their home. Ethan had seen the gardens before, but today he noticed their subtle details. The way energy flowed through the plants, how the floating stones responded to movement, and how the flowers' glow adjusted to temperature and light. Lyra led the way, her movements careful but elegant. Ethan followed closely, helping when she stumbled slightly or when the path shifted unexpectedly. "Your species works with nature differently," Ethan observed. "Everything here feels alive, not just in a biological sense, but in an energy sense too." Lyra smiled faintly. "Humans see life differently. You focus on material and physical. Zyra see energy and rhythm. Both perspectives are valuable." Ethan paused. "Do you think humans and Zyra can learn from each other?" Lyra considered this. "Yes, as long as we respect differences and observe without judgment. That you have shown me. You respect boundaries even when unfamiliar. That is rare." They reached a small pond suspended among floating trees. The water shimmered with faint light, reflecting the violet sky. Ethan sat on the edge, careful not to disturb the delicate energy flow. Lyra joined him, her glow flickering faintly, still affected by her cycle. "I've been thinking," Ethan said, "about yesterday and the day before, about the chamber, the energy system. I realized that being calm and careful made all the difference. We couldn't panic or we'd fail." Lyra's eyes softened. "Exactly, and you stayed calm when others might have faltered. That earns respect." Ethan felt a small thrill of pride. Thanks, but you were just as important. I couldn't have done it without your guidance. Lyra's glow brightened slightly. Perhaps this is the beginning of understanding, not just of each other, but of our species. They sat quietly for a while, observing the floating gardens. Ethan noticed subtle changes in Lyra's glow, slightly stronger, more stable, as if the energy of the gardens was helping her balance her cycle. He realized that understanding her wasn't just about respecting her boundaries, it was about learning how her energy worked and supporting her in subtle ways. Ethan, Lyra said after a while, humans are emotional, impulsive, and physical, but you also show patience, adaptability, and cleverness. You adjust to circumstances. That is admirable, Ethan smiled. And you are strong, graceful, and careful. Even when you're uncomfortable, you push forward. That's impressive. Lyra's glow pulsed slowly, a sign of appreciation. Perhaps, together, humans and Zyra can accomplish more than either could alone. The afternoon brought a small task, reorganizing the energy conduits in the house. Ethan had learned enough about Zyra technology to assist efficiently. Lyra guided him through the adjustments, showing him how subtle changes could balance energy flow without triggering instability. At one point, Ethan noticed her movements faltering. Her glow dimmed and flickered, a sign that her cycle was making her tired and slightly disoriented. Lyra, let me handle this section, Ethan said gently. You need rest. I can manage the finer adjustments. She shook her head faintly. No, I want to stay. You learn best when you experience it firsthand, and I feel more secure with you. Ethan nodded. All right, we'll work together. I'll support you. They moved side by side, adjusting conduits carefully. Ethan's steady hands complemented Lyra's precise knowledge. When her movement slowed, he compensated. When his knowledge faltered, she guided him. Together, they maintained balance, avoided mistakes, and strengthened the house's systems. After the task, they returned to the observation deck. Zyra Prime's skies were alive with floating rivers of light, and Ethan realized how much he had learned, not just about Lyra, but about the world she lived in. Respect wasn't just about politeness. It was understanding energy, biology, and culture. You know, Ethan said, I think I understand a little more about your cycle. It's not just physical. It's energy, emotion, and focus. I see now why it's important to respect it fully. Lyra's glow pulsed brighter, a faint smile on her face. You learn quickly. That is valuable. Many humans would ignore these subtleties. You do not. Ethan felt warmth inside. I guess humans can learn from anyone, alien or not, if we try. Lyra nodded. Indeed, and humans have qualities Zyra often overlook. Courage, patience, adaptability. Your species surprises me. The evening approached. Ethan and Lyra joined Solara for a quiet meal. Conversation was gentle, respectful, and filled with shared experiences. The bond between the step-siblings had grown significantly, built on trust, patience, and mutual understanding. As night fell, Ethan reflected on the day. They had faced minor challenges, adjusted to each other's rhythms, and learned valuable lessons about cooperation. He realized that living on Zyra Prime wasn't just about surviving, it was about understanding, respecting, and adapting. Lyra spoke softly as they prepared to rest. Ethan, I feel understood. I trust you. That is rare. Most of my interactions lack this quality. You have shown me that humans are capable of empathy beyond their strength. Ethan smiled. And you've shown me that Zyra are patient, intelligent, and resilient. I've learned a lot. And I feel stronger because of it. Lyra's glow pulsed slowly, a sign of contentment. Perhaps, together humans and Zyra can bridge differences, respect, understanding, and cooperation. These are powerful tools, Ethan nodded. I think so. And I'm glad we're step-siblings. It's strange but good. I feel like we can face anything together. Lyra's faint smile grew more noticeable. Yes, together. As the lights of Zyra Prime shimmered outside, both of them rested secure in the knowledge that mutual respect and understanding had strengthened their bond. They had survived challenges, supported each other, and learned that differences weren't obstacles. They were opportunities for growth. Ethan realized that life on this alien world would continue to be difficult, full of surprises and sometimes uncomfortable. But the connection he shared with Lyra would help him adapt. thrive and understand the true meaning of courage, empathy, and human potential, the essence of HFY. And for the first time since arriving on Zira Prime, Ethan felt confident. No matter what challenges lay ahead, he and Lyra could face them together with respect, understanding, and the determination to learn from each other. The sun rose over Zira Prime, painting the floating city in soft shades of violet and gold. Ethan stretched, feeling stronger and more confident than ever. The past days had tested him in ways he had never imagined. Trapped in a chamber with Lyra, stabilizing alien technology, and learning to understand her cycle. And through all of it, something extraordinary had happened. A bond of trust, respect, and friendship had formed between them. Lyra was already awake, moving gracefully across the room, her glow steady and calm. Her cycle was now less disruptive, and she seemed more balanced than she had in the previous days. Ethan admired her quiet strength, realizing that she had endured challenges he could not fully imagine, and yet she had faced them with patience and courage. "Good morning," Ethan said, entering the room. "Good morning," Lyra replied softly. "You sleep well?" Ethan nodded. "I did, and I feel ready for whatever the day brings." Lyra tilted her head, a faint smile on her face. "As am I. We have learned much together, and I trust that we can handle anything." Their mother, Solara, called them to the central hall for breakfast. The floating orbs of food glimmered in the gentle morning light, providing nourishment for both human and Zira bodies. As they ate, Solara watched them with pride. "You two have grown closer these past days," she said. "It is rare for humans and Zira to form bonds so quickly. Your cooperation, patience, and understanding. It is admirable," Ethan smiled. "It's been challenging, but also rewarding. I've learned a lot about Zira Lyra in this world." Lyra's glow pulsed softly, a sign of approval. "And I have learned that humans can be patient, clever, and respectful. You surpassed my expectations." After breakfast, Solara suggested they visit the city's central energy hub, a place where humans and Zira often work together to maintain the planet's floating structures. Ethan had never been there before, and he was eager to see more of Zira technology and learn how he could contribute. The journey to the hub was breathtaking. Floating platforms drifted gently through the violet sky, connected by thin energy bridges that shimmered underfoot. Energy currents flowed like rivers of light, and Ethan realized how delicate yet powerful the systems were. When they arrived, the chief engineer, a tall Zira named Kale, greeted them. "Solara, Lyra, and human?" Kale's eyes flickered with curiosity. "It is unusual to have humans participate in hub operations." Ethan straightened. "I've learned a lot these past days, and I want to help. I can follow instructions carefully, and I'm willing to learn quickly." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "Very well. Let us see what you can do." The hub was a labyrinth of glowing conduits, floating tools, and panels that reacted to thought and motion. Lyra guided Ethan, explaining the energy flows, the timing of calibrations, and how the floating structures depended on constant monitoring. "You will need to synchronize these conduits with the main energy flow," Lyra said, gesturing to a panel. "If the timing is off, the platforms can destabilize." Ethan studied the glowing symbols carefully. "All right, I can do this." "Step by step?" Lyra nodded. "Step by step." They worked together, adjusting the energy conduits, matching pulses, and monitoring feedback. Ethan's steady hands and quick learning impressed even Kale, who watched silently from a distance. "You adapt quickly," Kale said finally. "Most humans would struggle, but you anticipate the patterns," Ethan smiled. "I guess humans can surprise you. And I had a good teacher." He glanced at Lyra, who smiled faintly, her glow steady and calm. Hours passed, and Ethan and Lyra continued their work. At one point, a sudden fluctuation in the main conduit caused a minor instability. Ethan instinctively pressed a corrective sequence while Lyra guided the timing. Together, they stabilized the system before any serious damage occurred. Kyle clapped his hands. "Impressive. You two make a remarkable team. Zira and humans working together. This is the future." Ethan felt a surge of pride. "It's not just about technology," he said. "It's about trust, understanding, and cooperation." "That's what makes the difference," Lyra's glow pulsed with warmth. "Indeed, humans and Zira can achieve much when we respect each other's strengths and work together." After the work was complete, They took a moment to rest on a floating platform overlooking the city. Energy currents flowed beneath them like rivers of light, and distant islands hovered in the sky. Ethan marveled at the beauty of Zira Prime, and at how far he had come in understanding this world and his new family. "Ethan," Lyra said softly, I am grateful, not just for your help, but for your presence. You respected me, even when I was uncomfortable." "That matters," Ethan smiled. "You're important to me, Lyra. Not just as a stepsister, but as someone I want to understand and support. We've been through a lot together, and I think we make each other stronger." Lyra's glow brightened slightly. "Yes, together we are stronger, and perhaps our bond can show that humans and Zyra can bridge differences, respect one another, and work as equals." As evening approached, they returned home. The floating city shimmered under the soft glow of the twin moons, casting reflections across the energy rivers. Saylara welcomed them, proud of her children's achievements and their growing bond. "You have both grown," she said gently, "not just in skill but in understanding, patience, and empathy. This is what makes a family, even across species." Ethan glanced at Lyra, who nodded slightly. Their eyes met, and in that moment no words were needed. They had faced challenges, adapted to differences, and learned to trust each other fully. Their bond was real, forged through experience, patience, and mutual respect. That night, Ethan reflected on his journey. Arriving on Zira Prime had been daunting. An alien world, an alien family, and situations he had never imagined. He had feared the unknown, worried about Lyra's differences, and doubted his ability to contribute. But he had learned that humanity had qualities beyond physical strength: courage, adaptability, empathy, and intelligence. Humans could face challenges, respect others' needs, and form bonds even across species. Lyra's cycle, which had once seemed awkward and strange, had become a lesson in patience, observation, and support. By respecting her needs and learning her rhythms, Ethan had grown closer to her and discovered the importance of understanding and cooperation. Lyra, too, had grown. She had learned that humans could be dependable, insightful, and capable of empathy. The differences between species were not obstacles, but opportunities to learn, adapt, and build bridges. In the days that followed, Ethan and Lyra continued their adventures together. They explored Zira Prime, assisted in city operations, and shared knowledge between species. Each challenge strengthened their bond, each new experience deepened their understanding, and each moment of cooperation proved that differences could be celebrated rather than feared. One afternoon, as they watched a floating river of light shimmer across the sky, Lyra spoke softly. "Ethan, I never imagined a human could be like this, patient, understanding, brave. You inspire me." Ethan smiled. "And you inspire me too, Lyra. Strong, intelligent, graceful. You've taught me more than I ever expected." Lyra's glow pulsed warmly, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey. "Together, we can face anything." "Humans, Zira. Together we are stronger," Ethan nodded. "Yes, together." The story of their first days on Zira Prime became a legend in their family, a tale of courage, respect, and the power of cooperation. Humans in Zira, though different, had proven that when they worked together, there were no limits to what they could achieve. Ethan finally understood what his father had hoped. That family, trust and understanding, could transcend differences, even between species, and in that realization, he felt a sense of belonging, purpose, and pride. Lyra's cycle, once a source of awkwardness and uncertainty, had become a bridge, a way to learn, understand, and grow. It had tested them, strengthened them, and ultimately united them. As night fully settled over Zira Prime, Ethan looked out over the glowing city. The planet was alive, beautiful, and full of possibilities. He knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but he also knew that together, he and Lyra could face anything, and with that thought he felt hope, strength, and the quiet confidence that humans, through courage, empathy, and adaptability, could rise to any occasion. Even among the stars, Ethan and Lyra, step-siblings by chance but united by trust and respect, had found a new beginning. Together they would explore, learn, and thrive, an example of human potential shining brightly even on an alien world.